What's up, everybody? My name is CoalFire, and welcome back to the Museum of Dubious Splendor. Now, after the first episode, the devs were kind enough to let me know that I was not making full use of the mechanics that are in-game. There is a camera that I was not aware of, because I am honestly not very good about reading instructions on how to play games. That's okay, though. As well as some interactivity in the rooms that we played last time. So, I am gonna skip through the stories which we read last time, and see what else is going on in those rooms that we just kind of breezed through. So, this is the Cantor story. Okay, and apparently this is interactable. Whoa. Rohan Nisa Parks. It is to the incredible life of Rohan Nisa Parks that one must ascribe the Museum of Matsyapur, a stately haveli with Victorian ornaments that sits impudent upon the banks of the river Koi. The museum was built as a memorial to her husband, Joseph Parks, who died of malarial fever in the year of 1782. Magistrate Joseph Parks had arrived in Matyaspur, a reformer. Banished to oblivion in a small newfound province upon his marriage to the youngest daughter of a Bidrutabadi nobleman. Parks was placed in charge of the small opium warehouse and the cantonment of 26 Afghan riflemen, who comprised the entirety of the company of troops in the region. But during the torrid monsoon that followed his appointment to the station, and mere months after his arrival in Matyaspur, Joseph Parks succumbed to malaria, leaving Rohan Parks with little wealth on which to survive. Perhaps unwilling to return a widow, or resentful of the whim of those who had sent Joseph to his... Oh, there we go. I didn't realize this was scrollable. Where were we? Unwilling to return as a widow, or resentful of the whim of those who had sent Joseph to his untimely death, Rohan Parks kept the demise of her husband secret from company officers. Is that? And assumed the duties of magistracy of the town herself in his stead. A shrewd administrator, Rohan's brief reign proved prosperous for the town, for she dismantled the opium warehouse, trading its contents to establish gunpowder and saltpeter mines around the old fort, and commenced a trade with many local rulers, Portuguese captains, and even Maratha deserters who had become bandits who wished to provision their soldiers with Mughal rockets, cannons, or English rifles, and needed gunpowder for the same. In a shadow of a stifling British monopoly on gunpowder, the trade proved so prosperous and employed so many of the townsfolk that Rohan Park became a revered personage in the town of Matyaspur. It is during this period of prosperity that she built the museum at Matyaspur. Her immense wealth and status as a local ruler allowed Rohan to acquire artifacts of great worth and rarity, seating the museum with the first of its exhibits. It took the company officials several years to uncover her deception, and when they eventually sent an expeditionary force to reclaim control of the town of Matyaspur, they discovered that Rohan Parks had died the previous month as a result of the explosion in one of her factories, leaving just the museum to stand a testament to her audacious rule as the magistrate of Matyaspur. That's a cool story. Well done. Really well done. I love stories like that. Alright, what does our camera do here? I know it allows you to save if you do a clicky-clack like that. But I don't know if there is anything else. I know the devs told me that it changes the experience in a very subtle way, and I don't know if that level of subtlety is simply viewing it all through a camera lens. What did we go through last time? I just really like everything that's going on in this. The interior design in this is just, it's freaking fantastic. The music is really cool. The stories are amazing, even if they are not those of the developers. Is this the same story? Yes, it is. Alright, which one did we go through last time? When Daoroji died and his funeral was completed, all that was left for his lawyer, Meta, was to distribute his property as bequeathed in his will. The house was divided between the 3 sons and their families, and the rest of the property similarly dispatched to other relatives. Every tiny object, from the cutlery to embroidered kurta, and even the table fan with bent blades, were given to some member of the family, distant and close, with a carefully drafted note of personal import, and that Daoroji had written prior to his passing. Such a meticulous distribution of his earthly acquisitions did not surprise Meta, who, in Daoroji, had found both conscientious colleague and a lifelong friend. So it came as some surprise to everyone when he found an apparatus in Daoroji's possession, of which no mention at all was made of in his will. Try as he might, Meta could not discern any use for the object. No one in the family had ever seen or heard of this quaint apparatus, and its purpose could not be fathomed, nor its materials identified. Its place of discovery was also surprising, for it was found on Daoroji's deathbed, resting below his head in the moments prior to his death, as if it were a possession of great value. Bewildered by this unexplained object, Meta was only too glad to donate it to the museum, where it now resides. Is it a pillow? I'm gonna start guessing what the objects are before we see them. I think it's a pillow. Oh man. I think so far of all of the stories, that was my, I want to say least favorite, just because it didn't describe the object in all that much detail, or leading up to what was so important about it. The one with the monkey gods was all about all of the gods' blacksmith forging all of these different smaller and smaller items, and the shoes were all about this runner who, you know, ran for ages and ages and ages, and his feet turned to leather, but really they were just a pair of leather shoes. But this one was all about, like, other possessions and how they were bequeathed, and then at the very end it's like, well, there was a thing under his head, and it was a pillow. I don't know. I don't dislike it, it's just my least favorite so far. Where to next, everyone? That looks like the room that we could have gone in last time. It's it's kind of bothering me that these doors aren't symmetrical. I think they have been in every other room so far. That's strange to me. But since we missed the opportunity to go in this one last time, let's check it out! What's in here? The door behind it. A long, long time ago, when the forests had ears and the sun was still a sparkle in Uofro's eyes, Shonturmul, the god of seashells, found Grodal Bech, the thunder god, who perched despondently upon the edge of the Himalayas. Ever eager to help, Shonturmul asked his fellow immortal what ailed him so. And Grudal Beg moaned in reply, Oh, Shantur, I cannot help but bemoan my sorry state. If only I had an extra pair of eyes on the back of my head, then I would not have to turn around to see what was behind me all the time. And Shanturmal, after careful thought, said, There is only one craftsman in all known lokas who can build a pair of such eyes. Who is this right? Demanded Grildarbech. And Shanturmal replied, He is called Ego, and he lives in the forest of Gundur. Possessed by an urge to have a pair of eyes attached to the back of his head, Grildarbech journeyed to the mortal world. Here he disguised himself as a mendicant, and soon appeared at the doorstep of Ego's workshop. Inside sat the master craftsman, surrounded by cloaks and astrolabes, armillary spheres and sextants, and devices that even the god did not recognize. Ego appeared to be working assiduously, and paid no heed to his visitor. "Oh, Ego, the fabled hands," cried Grildarbech, the mendicant. "Long have I said to myself, if only I had a pair of eyes on the back of my head. Will you not craft me one such pair? You shall have my heartfelt blessings in return." Ego replied without looking up, "I am busy, much too busy," and with that, refused to say any more. Grildarbech returned to the forest the next year, this time disguised as a pasha, with a retinue of armed and mustachioed guards. He reached the workshop and found Ego at his bench, as if no time had elapsed since the god had last been there, in the guise of the mendicant. "O Ego of the fabled hands," growled Grildarbech the Pasha, "long have I said to myself, if only I had a pair of eyes in the back of my head. You shall craft me one such pair, or I shall have my guards throw you to the crocodiles." And still, Ego, engrossed in his work, replied with a dismissive shake of his head, "I'm busy, much too busy," and with that, refused to say more. His patience was wearing thin. Grildarbech snapped himself into his natural form and reappeared in the workshop in all his godly glory. And still, Ego would not deign to look up from the work that absorbed him so. "Ego," thundered Grildarbech, his voice like a boom of a cannon, "long have I said to myself, if only I had a pair of eyes at the back of my head. I demand you craft me one such pair immediately." And again, unheeding, Ego replied, "Later. I will craft it later, for I am busy, much too busy." Defeated in his quest and bewildered by Ego's preoccupation, Grildarbech demanded, "But what is it that absorbs you so? What are you building so assiduously?" And Ego looked up with alacrity, revealing a slender box-like object with 2 holes, cradled in his palm, and he declared, "Look, I am building an apparatus." A slender box-like object with 2 holes? That's a really vague description. Let's find out what it is. Oh, it's a cassette tape. Oh, goodness. Ego, why were you working on a frickin' cassette tape? You could have been making eyes for a god. That would have been pretty cool. I really like all these little roosters. Hi there. You guys are kind of unsettling in your own cocky way. I don't know. That's what I mean. Just like every bit of this game is just so filled with detail and art. I understand that it's a short story followed by a room, but I really like that no detail was spared in the making of the rooms. Let's pop a quick picture of you, sir. Hi there. Okay. So everyone, where to next? 3 pi sigma? Or haven't we already been in Squiggles? We haven't been in U yet. I like this one. Oh, it's another one of these rooms. Hi there, Pipes. How are you guys? Okay, last time we were in here, there were 3 walls of 4 spigots, spouts, faucets, other synonyms for valves for water. And now there's this. Does that have any implications to the game, the length, anything about it? Can I do anything with you? Can I take a photo of you, maybe? No? Okay. Well then. Hey there, little paper boat. Oh, goodness, that's a little unsettling. Alright. Now we have 4 doors. We've been in those ones, and they are identical. This door has no label. No, I'm gonna stay, because I want to see what's in this one. Leave. It was with trepidation that Henry clambered up to the podium, his fingers a nervous tremble, and his temples throbbing as he launched hesitantly into the paper he was presenting at the Royal Society. Conscious of the blasphemous nature of his discourse, and perhaps anticipating the scorn that inevitably followed, Henry stopped at every 3rd syllable, mumbled most of his arguments, and only ever alluded to the works of his colleagues in barely audible tones. Nonetheless, the gist of his argument was immediately recognizable, and even more immediately discarded and reviled. Meanwhile, Henry, oblivious to the dissenters, continued his description of a receding fabric of the sky, as he observed and recorded by Hussein Massoud in his book of almanacs that Henry had been painstakingly restoring for the past 3 years. 10 years ago, when Henry was still a young administrator, he had been appointed to the Zia Vodpicourt, and under his domain was placed the care of the town of Ordi. Ordi was the site of a great observatory by Maharaja Goshal Singh Bunga. I am so sorry about the pronunciation of that name. That in itself is blasphemy, but that's okay. My apologies. And Henry was distressed at finding the place and its delicate, astronomically inclined buildings plundered and riddled with cannonball holes. The excavations and restorations he commissioned here had occupied the best years of his service, and his devoted effort had led to an inescapable conclusion that the chief astronomer at Ordi, a scholar by the name of Hussein Massoud, had discovered a fundamental truth about the universe that has still eluded his Occidental brethren. Massoud had claimed with reliable detail that the known universe seems to be splitting apart, and would eventually scatter his components across an infinitude of distance. It was the need to share this observation that had occasioned his lecture at the Royal Society, but Henry realized it had all been a mistake. His attempt at galvanizing support for the study of the accumulation of Massoud's writings were laughed at, and at the end of the day he sulked away unnoticed, but comforted by the singular thought that at least he had not handed over all of his findings and artifacts from Ordi to the archivist at the Society, where they would doubtlessly have been thrown into the basement and never heard from again. Instead, he had kept most of the plundered wealth from Ordi for himself. The brass astrolabes, the copper-ringed armillary spheres, made from marble discs that had been repaired, now adorned his study, but his favorite possession of the lot was an inconspicuous box full of strange sticks that were bulbous at one end. He did not know what this device did or how it was meant to function, but he held on to it until his untimely death, whereas the box was auctioned to a collector of colonial artifacts. A replica of his box is kept here at the museum in memory of Henry's contribution to the restoration of Ordi and the continued relevance. Wow, English is hard today too. And the continued relevance of Hussein Masood's writing that are now widely acknowledged to have been poetic, prophetic, and accurate. A box of strange sticks that were bulbous at... Is it a bag of golf clubs? Matchsticks. Matchsticks. I remember seeing this one in the screenshots for the game. Kind of disappointed that I didn't get that. But we were going off of sticks with bulbs, and my first thought was a driver golf club. Do you have something to do with the camera? I was half expecting something to appear in it. No? That's alright. Alright, so we've already been in that door, and the only one left is this unlabeled one, and part of me thinks that that's the end of the game. I know I'm about 30 minutes into this recording, but since it does seem like we're so close to the end, I think I am just going to push onward. Okay. Whoa, hi there, birds. You guys are cool. I like that you are, like, actually 3D objects, but I can only see your silhouette. There's something behind me? Ah, it's you again, Mr. Pipes. Nice to see you. So, what's going on here? Oh? It was the last object she gazed upon. The portrait of Rohan, the progenitor of this Sangralea. I don't know. There was a vindictive anger in her trembling fingers as they pulled at the marble within the ornate frame to try and wrench the portrait loose. I will not let them take this, she thought. I will not let them steal from me the last tangible memory of Rohan and my grandmother. As Papa Parks heaved at the mural stuck to the wall to try and dislodge the portrait of Rohan, unbidden tears sprang to her eyes. She had lived in this Haveli for as long as she could remember. The museum was the only home she had known. She had learned to marvel at the audacity of her grandmother Rohan, and had been told the tale of Rohan until it was inscribed in her being. Had she not been told that this museum was their legacy? A tangible remnant of Rohan's incredible life, and now to see that being torn and carted away was too much to bear. With anger came the memory of the municipal decision to tear down the museum in memory of the destitution after the riots, and the grinning face of the municipal contractor who promised never to dislodge even a grain of sand when buying the property from her father. And now, with the papers signed and the family evicted, the museum was being torn down. She could hear the sounds of the municipal surveyor in the other room, his camera making unwelcome mechanical sounds, and they had also sent their scavengers to appraise the artifacts. She cursed him, and with a final tug, dislodged the mural and left the museum by the back door, never to return to the place again. There's the subtlety. That's it. I like that. Does that mean end? A museum of dubious splendors. I really, really enjoyed this. I don't know, there was something about that just like perfect balance of a short story followed up with a really quick visual punchline. That the stories were so detailed and rich, and they all seemed like they had so much depth to them. And then they were all resolved with just like a quick little visual gag. I don't know. There's something just like amusing and endearing about that. And I know that the works and writing that are presented in this game are not the works of the creators of this game, but I do think that this is a fantastic homage and almost like a way of spreading awareness about an author that was not only important in a legal sense, but important in the sense that it's crossing cultural boundaries. And I don't want to like act like I'm overplaying this or anything, but I don't read all that much outside of the internet. And sitting down to read something that is by somebody from such a vastly different time and culture like this, presented in a way that makes it extremely interesting to people who've been raised in the information age. It's something that is so fantastic to see being explored in this medium of video games, and you know, just so much respect to the developers for taking the time to create this, to share some work from, I believe, their culture, and I don't know, just all that it represents in every way, shape, and form. But thank you all so much for watching. My name is CoalFire, and I will see you next time.